Welcome back to the Daily Poem here on the Close Reads Podcast Network. I'm David Kern. Today's poem is by one of my favorite poets, Rhina Espaillat, a Dominican-American poet. I've read not 2 or 3 of her poems here on the podcast, and I could easily do a week like I did with the Seamus poems. The poem that I'm going to read today is called Bilingual. It comes from a collection called Where Horizons Go, which came out in 1998 through New Odyssey Books. I highly recommend that you get a chance, that you look this poem up. I'll explain why in a second, but it's one of those poems that there's visual clues to help unpack it. Now, also, there's a bit of Spanish in this poem, and I'm just going to go ahead and say it right away. I don't speak Spanish well at all, and I butcher pronunciation, so I'll do my best, but you'll have to be forgiving as far as that goes, which I think is in some ways part of the point of this poem. But this is it. It is Bilingual by Rhina Espaillat. My father liked them separate. One there, one here, alla Iaki, as if aware that words might cut into his daughter's heart, El Corazon, and lock the alien part to what he was, his memory, his name, su nombre, with a key he could not claim. English outside this door, Spanish inside, he said, y basta. But who can divide the world, the word, mundo y palabra, from any child? I knew how to be dumb and stubborn, testaruda. Late, in bed, I hoarded secret syllables I read until my tongue, mi lengua, learned to run where his stumbled. And still the heart was one. I'd like to think he knew that, even when, proud, orgulloso of his daughter's pen, he stood outside mi versos, half in fear of words he loved, but wanted not to hear. So what I wanted to mention is that the visual part of this poem that I hope you'll look up is that all of the Spanish is in parentheses. As if, there's this purposeful attempt to not mix the two languages, right? She has to separate them. She has to carve out space for the Spanish so that it doesn't get bled in with the English. There's also this sense that the Spanish is being imprisoned from me. It's being locked away here. And there's something sad about that in some ways she's sort of forced to separate these two parts of her. Language is so important. It's such a creative thing. It's such a defining characteristic about all human experience and human interaction and human creativity. And the idea that the Spanish gets hidden behind the parentheses is really profound, I think. And on the one hand, I think she's recognizing her father didn't approve of mixing the two languages, so she's honoring him in doing that. She's pointing out that her father wants the English to be spoken to the outside world, the Spanish to the inside world. So the Spanish goes inside the parentheses. But it seems like in some ways there's a bit of that creates some sort of conflict for her. Now, there's one spot where the Spanish is not in the parentheses. It's in the final couplet. He stood outside mi versos. Those two words are not in parentheses. They're not in italics. They're just incorporated right into the poem. And she seems to be saying, even that hopefully her father would be proud of her for her ability to use the language beautifully that he in some ways was afraid of. That even though he was afraid of mixing the two languages, that her ability to mix them together, to use them both in a poetic way to create meaning through that mixture, that he would love that he would be proud of that. That seems to be her hope. I really like this poem. Rhina Espaillat's poetry is often, on the surface, it seems simple. I feel like probably every time I read one of her poems, I say that. But there's always so much going on. And she can use little simple things like putting Spanish in parentheses to say really profound, moving things. So I hope you will check out her work more. She deserves to be far more known, I think, than she is. So once more, here is Rhina Espaillat's Bilingual. My father liked them separate, one there, one here, aya iaki, as if aware that words might cut into his daughter's heart, el corazon, and lock the alien part to what he was, his memory, his name, su nombre, with a key he could not claim. English outside this door, Spanish inside, he said, y basta. But who can divide the world, the word, mundo y el palabra, from any child? I knew how to be dumb and stubborn, testaruda. Late in bed, I hoarded secret syllables. I read until my tongue, mi lengua, learned to run where his stumbled. And still, the heart was one. I like to think he knew that, even when, proud, orgulloso of his daughter's pen, he stood outside mi versos, half in fear of words he loved, but wanted not to hear. This has been the Daily Poem. Thanks so much for listening. Back tomorrow with another poem for you.